The first step is, of course, to trace your foundation onto your big paper, and that includes the darts, the grain line. Remember I said that I was gonna make it about an inch longer so that I could wear shoes with a little bit of heel, maybe, or at least not have my trousers strangely short. In any case, I did that, and the next thing that I'm gonna do is design my pockets. I've decided that I want slash pockets. And how big is my hand? My hand's gotta be able to fit in there. So I need my opening to be like at least that long. So I'm gonna draw a line here. Yeah, you can see the line. Okay. But I want my actual pocket to be significantly longer than that, so that I could actually put stuff in it, like maybe that long. I don't want to interfere with my dart, so I'm just going to go like to the actual edge of the dart. I think I'm going to measure away from the grain line and make sure that I have my pocket evenly the whole way down. So make a dot here. Two inches. Dot here. And then I'll square off from here to where I made my mark. So that is my pocket design. And I'm just gonna set you inside of it to make sure that you're phone sized. Check. All right. So what I'm gonna do is when I trace the foundation again, I'm going to cut along here, and then I'm going to cut a separate piece that looks like that, and I'm going to cut a piece that looks like that. So I'm going to do that, and then I will show you all three pieces. All right, so these are the two pocket pieces. This is the one that's invisible on the inside, and this is the one that you'll actually see the little section of it sticking out there. Okay, so I just want to point out that this is actually inside out, because it's going to be, like, I traced it all facing the same way, but this one's actually going to face the other direction. So, hey, fun story. Okay, you could absolutely just put seam allowance there, put seam allowance there, call it good. Your pocket's ready to go, okay? But all right, so that would actually be really good if you were gonna use, say, this is gonna be your visible fashion fabric, and then this one's gonna be like a thin lining fabric. Like if you were doing like a chunky tweedy suiting fabric, but I'm not. I'm using something rather thin. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this off here, and I'm gonna tape it right here, because this is just a straight line, so why bother having a seam there at all? So I'm gonna do that. The textbook that I'm following actually has it attached, like I would draw it directly on the crotch of the pants, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to have a separate left and right piece. That's all. I made a mark 9 inches down because I want my fly to be 9 inches long. So I'm going to start by drawing a line that is 9 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. Sorry, the line is 9 inches long. I'm drawing another one 1.5 inches away. Sorry if that's confusing. All right, so as you can see, we have a rectangle sort of thing happening here. The top of it is just going to be a straight line. And then the bottom of it is going to have to curve. Now, which direction is it going to curve? Ooh, so if you are traditionally masculine, then you will want on the left side. But if you are traditionally feminine, you'll want it on the right. As a non-binary individual, I'm going to do the more masculine look. Therefore, I'm just going to look at my jeans for a moment. Yep, okay. It's got to look like that. See? This one is a separate piece. Okay, so. I guess that's gonna do. All right, now I gotta draw seam allowance all over the whole thing. To make it simple, every seam allowance on the entire trousers is gonna be 3/8 of an inch. That way I don't have to think about what seam allowance goes where. It's just 3/8 everywhere. I'm gonna fill some dead air by telling you a joke. 2 sewing machines are in a bar, and one sewing machine says to the other, "Are you a singer?" And the other sewing machine says, "Why? Do you know me?" The fly shield is a rectangle that is 1 inch wider and 1 inch longer than the fly. So, start by drawing a line that is 10 inches. And from each end, I'm going to square off 2.5 inches. And I'm going to draw a line in the middle of it. That's my grain line. And now I'm going to draw seam allowance all the way around. The doctor told me I need more fiber. So I went to the yarn shop and I put this to close the edge, and then I cut it, and now I have to tape some paper to the bottom so I can put some hem allowance on it. That's what's going on here. Don't mind me just being an idiot. Now, I'm going to make 1.5 inch hem. So I'm going to square 1.5 inches from this line here. Remember, I already made it 1 inch longer to accommodate my shoes. So in order to make this hem really nice, put it slightly on an angle. That way, when you go to fold it up, since the trousers are tapered, when you go to fold it up, you won't have any like awkward wrinkling going on there. That's what I got to say about that. All right, we got our 1.5 inch hem allowance. And now I'm going to put seam allowance all over the rest of the front. You are prone to forgetting, you can write down exactly what this pattern is and your seam allowance, hem allowance, and any other direction that you want to give yourself. This is the back of the trouser foundation. I've decided to not do any changes to it. As much as I really like having back pockets, traditional back pockets for trousers would be bound or welt pockets, and those are a challenge. I find them very challenging. I'm not very good at that yet. And since I want these trousers to look nice, I'm just gonna forego the pockets for now. They're not so much difficult to pattern, but they're very difficult to sew. And if I wanted to add them to the pattern later, I could. They're pretty simple. To pattern them, you would just draw a line and then a rectangle. So all that I'm doing to the back of the trousers is I'm making them 1 inch longer to accommodate my shoes, and I'm adding seam allowance and hem allowance. That's it. The final step in pattern making the trousers is to measure the tops of the waist to make the waistband. The way to measure the waist, I'll show you. It's best if you use a flexible ruler or a tape measure to do so. And you can definitely measure okay, so this is the back. So I'm gonna start at the center back and I'm gonna measure in only as far as the dart. So measure only the part that's going to be on the outside that people can actually see. So do not include seam allowance, do not include darts. Oh, and a pencil, so I can write this down. So, the back to the edge of the dart is 3 inches, so then I would move to the other side of the dart and start again with the 3 inches here. Now we're going to 4 1/4, and then to the other side of the dart, I will move that 4 1/4 so that it's here, and then all the way to the corner of the stitching line. That is 6 1/4 times 2, because you know there's going to be a left and a right, will end up being 12 1/2. So the back, 12 1/2. All right, now we're going to go on to the front. And I'll also start at center front again. And we measure to the leg of the dart, which is 2 1/8. And then I'll move the ruler so that 2 1/8 is on the other leg of the dart. And measure to this dart, where we are at 3 3/8, which I will move to this other leg of the dart and measure all the way to the side, where we are at 6 1/4 again. Oh yeah, that's because I balanced the pattern. So I'm going to write it down over here. Times 2 is 12 1/2. together is going to be 25, which just seems so small. I don't understand. Why is it so small? My waist isn't 25 inches. I have no idea. To measure the pocket. Okay, we gotta measure the front again. So this is the section of pocket that's visible. So we're gonna line this up and line this up here. And this is going to add an additional 1.1 inches times 2 is 2.25. 27.25 just still seems so small. Am I missing something? Did I measure wrong? Like, there's no way. My waist isn't that small. And yet, like, I took these measurements from my own body. It'd be at least 28, but there should be some ease. And I tried on the muslin mock-up. Maybe I should measure that. See what the... Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll measure this. Don't mind me, just don't, the mock-up that I did, and it is measuring out to 31.5. So 31.5 is the measurement that I'm gonna go with, and the reason for this is because I do need to have a little bit of ease in here. I mean, I took this pattern like directly like from my body measurements, and I made the mock-up. I don't understand why I measured. Like, I must have measured something wrong, but 31.5 is what I'm gonna go with. We do have to measure the shield. The shield is gonna be folded in half, so we're gonna take half the measurement of this. And half of the measurement, okay, so it's 2.5 inches without seam allowance from stitching line to stitching line, I guess. So half of 2.5 would be 1.25. So that together is going to be 32.75, which is how big I'm going to make my waistband. So I need my big ruler here so I can draw a line that is 32.75 inches long. I'm not going to do a super big hefty waistband that maybe like 1.25 inches. I want to make my waistband 1.25 inches, which means that since it's folded over, it's going to need to be 2.5. So I'm going to square up 2.5 from each side. It's pretty easy. We're just drawing a rectangle. We're literally drawing a rectangle here. Okay. And I'm going to do one in the middle too because I can't. And one at this end. And then I'm going to connect them. And since we are doing seam allowance, so, read any good books lately? Y'all tell me what you're reading right now. And I will see you in Trousers Part 3.